Katawa Shoujo. Today's art club meeting is currently on hold while everyone waits for Namiya to show up. I take this time to try and explain my theory about Iwanako to Rin. I've tried to figure out what exactly about the school feels so special to me, the concept that I unsuccessfully tried to explain to Yuko the other day. It's still difficult, but the track meet and the time that I've spent observing my fellow students have helped my ideas mature a little. Have you noticed that people talk all the time? I can't really explain it, but once again as I try to explain my observation, I'm struggling for words. The student body is heavily clicked, and I'm only now beginning to make sense of the intricate grouping and popularity networks, and yet the feeling of being a part of a group is stronger here than I remember it being at my old schools. I'm trying to say that this school isn't like other schools, or at least the students aren't, even after discounting the obvious. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what you mean. Oh well, whatever then. I want to pursue the issue, but at that point, Namiya arrives. The teacher is wiping sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief and breathing rather heavily. He quickly glances over the room and then settles down a bit. Hello. Apologies for being late. Is everyone present? Good. I must confess I haven't really planned anything for today as I have been extremely busy lately, but I'm sure we could all come up with something entertaining. Anyone have any suggestions? I was thinking we could have a discussion circle since we haven't had one in a while. I, at least, found the last one magnificently enjoyable. There are some murmurs here and there, but nobody raises their voice in support of or against Namiya. We could delve into the various movements of art, or does someone have a good topic in mind? Come on, throw it out there. It doesn't matter if it's silly or odd, we can always cook up something interesting. Nobody seems brave enough to make a suggestion. As the awkward silence refuses to be broken, I lift my hand into the air. Oh, our newest friend seems to have something on his mind. Speak up, my boy, speak up. Well, I don't know about anyone else, but I've always wondered why art exists in the first place. My voice trails off. A silence sets in the room. Nobody makes a follow-up on my meek suggestion. Then the teacher bursts into laughter. Ha ha ha! Excellent! Very good indeed. Right out of the gate with the big one, huh? Fabulous! Chuckling, he shifts some papers around on his desk for a few moments. When he's done, he appears to have made some sort of decision. Very well then, let us run with this and see where it gets us, shall we? Oh my, even an old fogey like me gets excited when such delicious enthusiasm is present. Oh my, indeed. Let me gather my thoughts for a moment so I can figure out a good starting point for everyone. For some reason, the teacher seems to be almost literally bursting with excitement. He scribbles a few things down on the loose sheet of paper, then cleans his glasses with the handkerchief. He strikes a pose, then freezes in an overly dramatic artistic pause that spans what must be half a minute. It's so quiet I could hear a pin drop. First, let's come up with a few questions that we want answered, such as, what is art, and why does art exist? Anyone have any questions that might be related? The boy with sunglasses pipes up almost immediately. His voice is soft and quiet, and I have a hard time making out what he says. What defines an artist? After him, another question comes up. If I fill a cardboard box with water and call it art, is it art? Everyone laughs at that, even the teacher. Great, wonderful, all of these. Let me start by saying that this is not a clear-cut issue by any means, and as such, I'm not going to give any answers to you. I'm only going to speak from my own perspective. Scholars have argued about these sorts of questions since time immemorial, and there has never really been a broadly applicable consensus reached. There are, however, some qualities that most tend to generally agree upon. Hopefully, you should all find these acceptable as well. In short, art defines itself. It simply cannot be contained to a definition from the outside, since the boundaries of art expand and contract from forces within. Every day, someone somewhere comes up with something completely outrageous that challenges any and all preconceptions. The core reason for this is that rather than the rational side of the mind, art appeals to the intuition, the instinct, the primal. You would find it very hard to explain why exactly it is that you enjoy some particular style or piece, no? He doesn't wait for a response before continuing. This is exactly why. So art is the sort of wild, uncontrollable thing that lurks somewhere deep in our subconscious. Now, why does it exist? Namiya apparently expects someone to pipe up with a guess, but as nobody dares to interrupt his inspired speech, he continues. It was a trick question. You see, art also validates itself. Generally speaking, you might say that art exists for no other purpose than itself. It's something that exists merely to leave a mark in history. It's the defiance of a mortal against the face of darkness. As was once said, art is truly the proof of our existence. You should all know that human culture and civilization are tightly tied to the existence of art. I mean, he's not wrong. Everything that he's saying is correct, basically. Then what about artists? What drives a man to dedicate his life to a thing so fickle and mysterious that it even defies definition? There are as many answers for this as there are artists, but if I had to put it into words, an artist doesn't make art because he can, but because he must. Nomiya takes a pause, and his gaze sweeps over his audience, eyes flaring with passion. It is obvious that art touches the very soul of each and every human being in one way or another, so if you were given a chance to connect with your fellow man in such a fundamental way, how could you not? There is a poem I am very much fond of, and I shall recite the most well-known part of it to you now. I feel that for me personally, of all possible things, it captures best the essence of what it means to be an artist. Nomiya leans against the desk as he clears his throat in preparation. Looking at some distant place, he utters the words in the heavy afternoon air with his soft basso voice. Shit, have I been voicing this guy wrong? I'm probably voicing everybody wrong. To see a world in a grain of sand. Oh yeah, V said this. That's, Robert Frost? William Blake? William Frost? It's one of those guys.
To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wildflower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour.
There is a solemn and unbelievably awkward silence after he finishes reciting the short fragment. Nobody dares speak a word. Nomiya clears his throat again. To be an artist is to see the world in a grain of sand. You see, dear children, without art there would not be much to live for in this world. It is a most profound thing. He's clearly touched by this notion. I almost expect to see a lone tear rolling down his rough cheek, but it never comes. I turn to Rin and whisper to her, "So how is this a discussion circle?" She shrugs nonchalantly back to me. The previous ones were the same. To his credit, Nomiya does try to get some debate going, but the club seems to be reluctant to comply. I feel a bit guilty about opening my mouth. Maybe we would have been spared from this. As the meeting comes to a close, I realize we haven't once touched any paint or pens today, and I feel somewhat disappointed. Nomiya suddenly appears next to us. He seems to be still fired up from the speech he delivered. His cologne smells musky and saccharine at the same time, giving me an instant headache, even though I'm not sensitive to perfumes. He's looking at Rin like a hungry wolf. Should I call somebody? Tezuka, do you remember Miss Saionji who visited us at the festival? I think so. I'm going to tell you something amazing. The thing is, she's a very well-known gallerist around here, and it turns out I might be able to get her to consider having some of your work put on display. He ends the sentence with a dramatic gesture. It seems he's expecting Rin to show some sort of joyous, shocked reaction at such grand news, but she just stares at him blankly. Magnificent, isn't it? This could be a real chance for us to get ahead, girl. But... Now I know what you're about to say. Yes, it wouldn't be a simple affair, but I think this is an absolutely fantastic opportunity. Frankly, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we even made it big. This could be the first step, and when the word is out, we strike while the iron is hot. Right, Nakai? Okay, so... He's saying a lot of we this and we that, but, like... What does Rin actually want? Because... It seems like he wants to use her because it makes the school's art program, and by extension him, look good. That's just the impression that I get from this, though. Painting is also the best thing that Rin has going for her right now. I don't know what else she would do. I mean, then again, you don't necessarily have to do anything to justify your existence. But there is an awful lot of social pressure to accomplish things. Anyway. Yeah, it does sound pretty great if you're into that kind of thing. See, we should definitely not let this one pass, am I right? I don't... really... Rin seems to be troubled for some reason. I can't figure out why. What Nomiya is saying does indeed sound like a possibly great thing. She looks pretty down, though, and confused. I've never seen her like this. So, what do you think? Rin looks up to her teacher's glowing face, then back down at her desk. I'll think about it. Nomiya is at last taken slightly aback by Rin's lack of superlative delight. Then he smiles widely at her and gently pats her head. Sir, please do not touch the students. Good girl. The club meeting is finally over, and as I lazily collect my things and help clean up, I start feeling exhausted. For some reason, there isn't much to do, however, so it's over quickly. I catch up to Rin, who left the club room just a moment earlier, so we're walking down the stairs to the ground floor while I try to go over Nomiya's passionate speech about art, and Rin seems to be lost in thought. Not an unusual state for her, I've learned, but something about her expression makes me feel uneasy. Penny for your thoughts? That'd be too cheap. You're just overpricing your thoughts. I wouldn't be able to sell them anyway. I'm not sure what I'm thinking yet. That'd be fraud, too, like stealing candy from a baby. That's theft, not fraud. I have to think about what I think. Is this about what the teacher said? Getting your work put on display and all that? She doesn't answer, but stops in her tracks as we reach the lobby. We're the only people around, so it's very quiet. Footsteps echo from a few floors up as someone hurries along a hallway. I think I'm gonna go somewhere, elsewhere. I think she really is troubled. Want company? I can't promise much help with the thinking, but it's not like I have much else to do, and I'm supposed to get some light exercise. If you like. Rin leads me outside, to the wall behind the dormitories. There's a small black gate there, made from the same wrought iron as the main gate. It leads to the shadowy woodland park behind the school. The gate is rusty, as if it hasn't seen much use. However, it sits open, so we pass through. It's not forbidden for students to leave the grounds, but somehow I feel a little uneasy. A path leads deeper into the forest. Tall zelkova and maple trees rustle in the wind, their canopies creating patches of chill air hanging in the places where the shadows fall. The forest smells strongly of earth. I almost feel cold, even though the midsummer day is hot as ever. Rin trudges ahead like a sleepwalker, sure-footed, but with no apparent destination in mind. Her thoughts seem to be somewhere else. I follow a few steps behind, taking more care to watch where my feet land. The path follows the land uphill at a low angle, sometimes making little detours downhill before climbing back upwards. The muted brown and gray trunks line the path on both sides, peppered with ferns and other undergrowth. After a little while, I start getting worried. The path is still wide and clear, so there's no chance of getting lost, but it doesn't look like we have any particular destination. There's nothing wrong with a bit of aimless wandering around, but I don't want to go so far that I get too tired to walk back. I'm starting to get a little winded, and my legs feel heavy. I want to stop and get a chance to catch my breath and rest my legs, but Rin keeps on going. Where are we going? Or are we going anywhere at all? Worry tree. I see. So what exactly is the worry tree? It's just a tree, like this. She stops in front of a particularly large maple that might or might not be the worry tree. Its lush green leaves sway lightly in the breeze blowing through the small clearing that we entered. I guessed as much. There are people who believe that you must come here to wallow in misery if you are miserable. Only by people, I mean me, and the tree isn't really called anything. So if you're miserable, you talk to a tree about it? No, what? You can't talk to trees. What, do you think I'm crazy? No, I didn't mean it like that. Or maybe you talk to trees. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that you are crazy, even though you probably are if you talk to trees. I wouldn't recommend it in either case. People will think you are a weird person. No, just forget it. She looks mildly confused, for which I don't blame her at all. She tilts her head a little to the side, expression melting back into her usual one. All right, I'm good at forgetting things. So, why are we here? Are you miserable, then? I can't read the expression she makes. I hate how bad I am at interpreting Rin's mood. She doesn't answer right away, as if she herself isn't quite certain of her own mood. The blank stare changes into a more difficult expression as she shuffles her weight around. Finally coming to a conclusion, Rin shrugs her shoulders. I've grown to seriously dislike that gesture. It doesn't mean anything. Maybe I just feel like I'm sinking underwater. I don't know what I should do. I don't know where I should go, that's all. Maybe it's not a big deal, but I thought that walking might help. Kind of like, if I go somewhere, I would know where I should go. I don't really know if it did. It really would have made sense if walking had helped me decide where to go. So you don't want to try to get an exhibition, or rather, you don't know if you do? Can't decide? Rin doesn't say anything for a while, arranging her thoughts in silence. The quiet is broken by birdsong from somewhere in the treetops, followed by rustling leaves as the bird takes flight. Maybe I'm not sure if I can have a thing like that. So far I've only painted for myself. I don't think I could have my things on display the way I am now. This me couldn't do it. Her reason sounds like a weak excuse. I make my trademark frown, but she doesn't notice it. I don't get it. The teacher certainly thinks you could. I don't think he'd suggest it otherwise. It sounds like he's calling in favors from his friends, too. I know, he's really done a lot for me, but this might be too much. Becoming someone who can do it might be pretty hard. Maybe I couldn't do it at all. He can't do it for me, and if I let him try, I'd just sink deeper and deeper. Rin stands in front of the large maple and turns away from me. I want to close the few feet of distance between us, and I don't know, my irritation is suddenly gone and I start feeling sympathetic to her. I know exactly how you feel. Well, maybe I don't, but still. I think I haven't felt like I was actually in control of my own life this whole year. I'm just helplessly going with the flow. Like coming here to this school. I didn't really choose it myself, and I certainly didn't choose this time of my life to learn that I have this condition. I still can't casually say the word aloud. It's like, yeah, this is exactly like being underwater, like I can't even breathe. Rin turns to face me again, a sad expression on her face. Is that why you look so sad all the time? I don't want to look sad like you. Do I look to you like you look to me? I don't look sad all the time. I just don't know what I should be feeling, what kind of face I should be making. Me neither. Do I look sad now? Not really. You look like you always do, I think. But I'm sinking. I should try to float. Up like a rubber duck. Quack quack, all yellow and creepy. I have to think for a few seconds about which direction I should pursue in this conversation, and then I realize that it doesn't matter. You think rubber ducks are creepy? You don't? I think they look very creepy. Everything that has eyes but isn't alive is very disturbing, like rubber ducks and reflections in mirrors. She flops down on the forest bed, leaning on the maple that she named the worry tree. After wondering what to do for a minute, I sit down too, 3 feet apart from her. The forest envelops us in its embrace, and its stillness falls upon the two of us. We sit there without speaking for a long while. I can literally feel the time passing. Patches of sunlight litter the small clearing in a pattern that echoes the maple canopies. One of them falls directly on me, warming me all the way to the bone. I wonder what I could do for myself, and maybe for Rin. For now I just keep watching her from this distance. Sometimes she cranes her neck all the way back so much that it looks almost painful, and she stares up at the small patch of sky visible past the canopy of the worry tree. Sometimes she just stares blankly ahead, as if seeing something just beyond her reach. She keeps whispering to herself, but so quietly that I can't hear her, even though I'm sitting right next to her. I only see her lips moving, like she was in the middle of a distant dream. I realize that right now, I no longer feel any of the intense loneliness I feel at night, just before falling asleep. I might be more like Rin than I thought. I can either give up and stay submerged under the weight of all the crap in my life, or try to change myself for the better. Her decision is different, yet the same. And unlike her, I know for sure that I can't stay like this forever. I have to change. I want to be more like Rin. Rin could probably do it, even though she seems to doubt herself. I have no doubts about her strength. She could do it, even if she can't. It makes me feel a little bit better, too, and I lean back against the tree, breathing out deeply as if for the first time in a long time. We stay that way in the small clearing until the angle of the sun changes and the chilly shadows deepen. No longer warm where we sit, we leave the forest, returning along the same path we took coming in. It doesn't seem like Rin has come to a decision. I wonder if it was a bad idea for me to come along. It's alright, I don't mind. I'm sure the trees and dirt and rocks won't mind either. Did you mind? Not at all. I think it helped me too. While we walk back towards the dormitories, the sky is changing to a deep ultramarine. The first summer stars twinkle softly from between the spots in the canopy, barely visible, like tiny fireflies. I become very self-conscious about Rin's presence. I haven't thought much about girls since things fell apart with Iwanako. This is kind of the same situation as then, but to be honest, I don't really think it counts for much, not with Rin. And yet it feels good walking next to her, even if it isn't anything more than this. At first, I think Rin agitated me quite a bit with her unpredictable behavior, but recently, I feel like I haven't had to be on my toes so much. I've managed to let myself go a little. It makes me feel satisfied, even though ultimately I think it's more thanks to Rin than myself. She seems to be disinterested in a huge number of things, but something in her makes me try harder than I normally would. It's not that I want to impress her. I think that truly impressing Rin would take a near superhuman effort just because of how she is. Instead, it's because there's this relentless feeling inside of me that I shouldn't let Rin down. It's really weird. I wonder why I started thinking like that. I don't even know what sort of expectations she has about pretty much anything. So how could I let her down? Rin has this unassuming air around her, and she doesn't really talk about stuff very often. Even today's confession of her self-doubt caught me a little bit off guard. I feel like I want to talk more with her. Then realization suddenly dawns on me that Rin is basically the only person that I talk to nowadays, apart from whatever I have to endure from Shizune, Misha, or Kenji. I feel slightly depressed. In front of the dormitories, as if summoned by my dark thoughts, we run into Kenji himself. Yeah, Kenji's back! It feels very odd seeing him outside breathing fresh outdoor air. At least it's already dusk. I partially suspect that Kenji would disintegrate upon direct exposure to the sun. Kenji himself seems very insecure as well, standing around looking like he's waiting for something, but doesn't know himself what it might be. Hey, Kenji, what are you doing? Hello. Who are you? It's me, Hisao. I'm not sure if you know Tezuka from class 3-4. From his face, I can see that not only he doesn't know Rin, he also can't see her from this short distance. Oh, sup dudes. Kenji sticks his hands enthusiastically forward, almost straight into Rin's stomach. Rin looks at his outstretched hand in confusion until Kenji clears his throat and retracts the hands. There's something almost cool that he manages to do with social awkwardness. It's not like I'm the most suave man on the planet, but I don't think I'll ever be able to even approach Kenji's level. I think I respect Kenji a little bit more. So you're waiting for someone? He leans closer and lowers his voice to an agitated whisper. I see his facial muscles twitching. Come on, man, you know I can't talk about stuff here in public. They might be listening. I'm gonna have to go pick up some stuff from somewhere, and I don't want those snooping student council hags to get on my case. Also, I don't trust your friend. Nothing personal. Are you sure he's trustworthy? I briefly considered telling Kenji about Rin's gender, but it might end up badly for one or both of them, so I decide against it. Yeah, I'm sure. He turns from me to Rin, and I immediately get the feeling that I have to prevent them from talking to each other with whatever means necessary. However, there is little I can do now apart from physical violence. In that case, would you be interested in knowing about the worst threat to mankind since they invented vegetarianism? He sounds like a vacuum cleaner salesman. I thought it was Sunday. I see. You're not in the know. Yeah, man. I'm talking about man-eating cows here. Very few people know what I know, so I'm not surprised. We can't talk here, but if you'd like a pamphlet, come to my room after curfew on Mondays or Wednesdays. He suddenly reaches into his pocket and draws out a ballpoint pen and what looks like a convenience store receipt. Kenji furiously scribbles on the scrap of paper and then thrusts it towards Rin. Here's the password. Memorize it and then eradicate any trace of this document. Eat it, burn it, dissolve it in acid, whatever. I take the receipt from Kenji as Rin is unable to do so and glance at it. It is indeed a receipt, apparently for 2 rice balls and 5 boxes of matches. I hope he's not planning to burn something down. On the other side is written just one word. Honey muffin. I show it to Rin too, but she shows no reaction. Thank you. Yo, Hisao, you still in that club? The Club of Dark Arts? Fine art. Anyway, yeah, we just had a meeting today. Still got your wits about you? No shady mind tricks going on? Nothing personal, man, but I have to be on top of things. Can't get caught with my pants down. Speaking of which, you should really take showers a bit later. Gotta respect that personal space. Nothing personal. Kenji looks around as if he heard something and then straightens his jacket. Okay, I gotta scoot now before it gets too late. Later, dudes. Good luck. Kenji takes off rapidly towards the main gate. Rin looks after him, frowning. We watch after Kenji's diminishing figure in silence. What's wrong with him? Technically speaking, I think he's legally blind. Oh, I see. That's not the only thing that's wrong. Katawa Shoujo. I can immediately tell from the envelope that it's not about official matters of any sort. Someone actually wrote me an old-fashioned handwritten paper letter. Who bothers doing something like that in this day and age anyway? Yet as unlikely as the prospect of receiving one sounds, there is definitely a paper lying on my desk. The classes for the day are over. Still feeling pretty full from the big lunch that I had unexpectedly eaten at the cafeteria, I returned to my dorm, planning on finishing my homework and probably skipping dinner, or at least just eating light. I feel like I need to eat less than I used to. Maybe I don't use that much energy now that I don't do much beyond reading. He should really be getting some kind of physical exercise with his condition. Like, that's not good that he isn't. But, like, when I tried to do that and be responsible about his condition, I just ended up on Emmy's route, so... However, the letter on my desk has naturally caught my interest. It's the first piece of mail I've received here at Iwanako, so it feels special even if it wasn't something as rare as a handwritten letter. What causes me even more trepidation is the name of the sender, written neatly on the back of the envelope. Iwanako. I have no idea why she would write to me. I haven't been in contact with anyone from my old school since I transferred, and Iwanako was the last person I'd expect to want to write me a letter. The last time I saw Iwanako was terribly awkward, embarrassingly so. She came to my hospital room and peeled me an apple out of courtesy, and then we practically sat in silence for half an hour. She said goodbye and didn't look me in the eye when she closed the door. It might have been a natural end to the series of visits that were probably pretty painful for both of us. Every time she visited me in the hospital, I wanted to talk to her, but something stopped me every time. Every time that I didn't speak made the next time even harder. Iwanako always had this aura of fragility around her, as if she'd shatter into pieces at the slightest disturbance. Initially, I think it might have been that delicacy that attracted me to her, but after what happened back then, it felt as if she really had shattered. She looked so sad that I didn't want to say anything that might upset her, and I never could figure out the right words to say. I told her that it wasn't her fault. She nodded, and I really think she understood that if it hadn't been that, then sooner or later something else would have made my heart give out. Yet she looked so hopelessly sad every time she opened that door and entered my room. So I never managed to say the things that I wanted to say. In the end, that might have hurt her even more. Carefully, I open the envelope and draw out the folded letter from within. Dear Hisao, how are you? I hope that you are well and happy at your new school. Everyone here misses you. Almost all of our second year class got put together in class 3-1 for the final year, so we're pretty comfortable right from the beginning of the year. I'm sure you would have been assigned to this class as well. The mood among the third year seems to be very anxious about the final exams, even though they are so far away. The teachers are badgering us about it all the time. Even old Mr. Tachibana, who is, by the way, our homeroom teacher this year. Would you believe it? I was sure that he'd retire after our second year, but here he is, nagging everyone about studying for exams. I think things like that are the main reason why the mood among the third years is so nervous. I must admit that I'm somehow losing confidence in myself as well, even though I've always fared reasonably well in exams. It's so weird to think that we're already seniors, isn't it? Time has really flown past. I wonder where it went. The new first year seems so young and somehow really innocent. I keep wondering if I was like them in my first year. I've been feeling nostalgic like this for the whole first trimester. There are other things that I want to say. I'm writing to you because I felt that there are things I should have said after the incident back in winter. I really regret that I wasn't able to say them in person, and I have no excuse for it. The truth is, the times when I visited you at the hospital made me worried about you. I'm not talking about your health. You seem to become more distant and disheartened. It was natural after something like that happened, I'm sure, but somehow I got the feeling that you had given up on something back then. Happiness, maybe? I wanted to somehow express my feelings, but the right words didn't come to me. I couldn't say anything to comfort you. I'm really sorry for not being able to help support you when it mattered the most, even though I like you so much. At least now, finally, I can be more honest. If I could go back to those quiet days in February and March, I'd tell you not to give up on yourself. That's what I would say. Maybe you wouldn't have drifted so far away if I had just said something. I hope you've managed to get back on your feet on your own. Now that the distance between us is also physical, it feels more final somehow. I wonder if we'll meet again. Perhaps it's for the best if we don't. Still, if you would like to correspond with me, by all means write me back. I'd very much like to hear about your new school and how you are doing. I wish you all the best. Sincerely, Iwanako. After finishing reading the letter, I fold it like it was and place it on my desk. I don't know what to think of this. I feel empty and confused. Why now, after all this time? Just yesterday, I decided that I can't let myself stay like this, that I tried to get on top of my own life. Reading this letter just reminds me of what could have been. Of course I wish that I didn't have to be here. I'd want to be in the same class with Iwanako again. Maybe we could talk every day now and go on dates. My life didn't go like that. I didn't really need to be reminded of this. Iwanako needed to write this letter for her own sake, and I'm glad for her that she could, but it would have been better if I hadn't read it. Of course, she is right. I thought of the same thing yesterday. I had fallen into a pit of depression, and now I have to try to climb out. Aww. I rip out a page from my notebook, and after a moment of thinking how to frame my words, write a short reply to Iwanako. I find it difficult to be really honest with her, but I at least try to appear somewhat convincing. I didn't write her about Yamaku at all. I doubt she'll write me again, but I don't feel at all sad about it. I fold my own letter to her. As I have no envelope, I set it next to Iwanako's. I'll mail it to her later. Then I lie back on my bed, looking at the monotone gray ceiling. A bird sings outside of my window, and a sudden gust of wind flutters my curtains. A bird sings outside of my window, and a sudden gust of wind flutters my curtains. The summer afternoon feels still, as if time had stopped for a brief moment. I think about all the things that I've lost and will never regain. Damn.